Alrighty everyone, here we are in the Undersea Gardens, entering the Lovers Cove Marine Conservation Area. As we're just getting started to see all the fish kind of start to come out, and you see a few fish here and there. There will be a lot more coming up around us in just a few minutes as we make our way deeper in towards the first viewing area. Now out here in Lovers Cove, it has been a protected marine conservation area ever since May of 1960. So that's almost 60 years that this area has been protected against any type of fishing, spearfishing, scuba diving, and collecting of any type. Of course, it's all in an effort to make sure the area stays well preserved for future generations to come out and enjoy the natural habitat.
Wow, that's
awesome. Look at the fish in the background. Look this way. Gerald.
Oh, Ricky, look over here now. We're all over here now.
You see, they come right up around the windows to take a look. It is two-way glass, so just as easy as we can see the fish, they can see us in here as well. Of course, it's kind of like a reverse aquarium. Since we're the ones inside the glass now, they're out in the open world. That being said, they might be thinking the same things that we are about them. Wow, look at that one. Oh, I've never seen one like that. Hey, well, look at this one. Sometimes we say, does that one taste good? I don't know.
Are you throwing
No, they expect it though. So we're going to be going upstairs, and I'm going to be tossing some fish food over the side, and so you guys get to see the feeding frenzy from down here. That's kind of how we keep the fish interested. It's a little bit of an incentive. They come up from the bottom and spend some time around the windows. It's just the typical little pellet food, poultry style, and so it's just the stuff. It's got all kinds of different ingredients in it. Now, a couple different species that you're probably seeing right now. You got the calico bass; those would be the ones with the checker pattern on their backs. The opali, the ones with the white dot on each side of their back, and then you have maybe a few half moons. They're kind of more of a bluish silver color. They don't have the white spot, but they're very similar in size to the similar in shape and size to the opali, and they have more of a white, black dot behind their eye. You can also keep an eye out for any of the Garibaldi, the bright orange ones. Those would be the California state saltwater fish, a protected species, as well as maybe a few topsmelt. So when you see them outside there, they might look like the mackerel. However, they are the topsmelt. They're more of like the silverish color with a blue stripe going down their body. They're only a few inches long, so they're pretty small compared to the rest of them we're seeing. And like I said, there's one thing that these fish are looking for, and as wild animals, you can expect that they are looking for food. Now the thing is, they expect food from the boat. It's a little something I call the ice cream truck theory. Because we come around, these fish hear the sound of our engines, like you can hear the sound of an ice cream truck in your neighborhood. It's a familiar sight and sound to them, so they know they're going to get a little free treat. So I'm going to head upstairs, give some stuff out to them, and then you'll kind of see them all go crazy and collect the little pellets from down here. After that, we'll be making our way through Lovers Cove to the other side and see what else we can find out here.
The half moons are the blue ones. See the blue ones? The big blue ones? So nice. That was a spill.
Make some face. Look at picture. Move on. Alright, that's good. Lean in towards me.
Over there.
Look at all the pellets.
That's nutritional food pellets. They gave food pellets for the fish
These guys are just eating frenzies. Wow.
That was awesome.
This is amazing.
Yes, flesh hangers. Oh, I missed it. Oh, it looks like freaking gore. It's nature. I like nature. No,
I think I've seen all the types of
Hey.
fish here except
or a shark, or some other type of big fish trying to get them.
Here comes Justin behind you.
Feeding frenzy over here. Oh no, you're fine. Tara, look. Tara, feeding frenzy. Mama.
These guys are blocking all our light.
Oh, there's some smelt, Ricky. You see it back there? Those are top smelt, yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of half moon. Oval eye has the white things on the back.
Yeah, the silver, the blue. So like that's a half moon right there with the white dot on its back. Right there. That's an opal. That's this one. See?
Oh yeah.
Look at the little.
More talking all over here.
Couple little top smelt over there on the right hand side. They're definitely checking it out. After all those big fish kind of subsided, they take their place. And these guys, they're actually filter feeders, so the majority of the time, those little top smelts are actually filtering in lots of little microorganisms. So that'd be basically plankton in the water, little specks of whatever else they can find out there, like algae and maybe CO2 particles. Now they actually are small enough, those little fish food pellets, that they can kind of go after the little scraps that fall down from all the other fish around there. Sometimes I'll throw the big scoop out to the big fish and maybe get a little sprinkle and throw it out there to the other guys that are out in the outskirts out there. Now the rest of these fish, it kind of almost looks like they're starving. They come right up to the windows. They are really trying to hunt, basically fight each other for all the food around here, and especially the fish food that we give them. Now the thing is though, there's more than enough food in their natural habitat, and as you can see, they don't follow the boat. They just kind of stay right back there where we found them, and then they'll be back again the next hour. And they basically know that we'll be back again the next hour, and that there's multiple boats operating out here. So it's kind of like I said, the ice cream truck theory. We're not the only ice cream truck around here, and we make multiple rounds. And when you think about it, they get maybe up to about 20 to 30 different feedings every single day out in this little area there. So these are probably some of the best fed and best entertained fish in the world. They get a new human exhibit almost every 15 minutes, and food. It's definitely a sight to behold for them. Now, the thing is, some of these fish, when they're out there kind of fending for themselves and just living off their natural habitat, they all have different diets. Some of them are carnivores and some of them are herbivores, some are scavengers. So you really find a difference of the ones that live longer versus the ones that don't live as long based on their diet and their genes. Now some of the ones that would be carnivores are like the calico bats, the ones that have had more of like the dark brown color with the silver checkers on their backs there. Those ones are carnivores that have tiny little sharp teeth in their mouths that are good at ripping things apart, like the carcass of a fish, smaller species of fish. Sometimes they'll eat things like the insides of little sea cucumbers and sea urchins, the spiny ones. You'll also find them eating little rock crabs and different things like that, other living things at the bottom.
Which ones live longer?
Typically, the longest living fish out here would be the calico bass. Those guys can get up to around 35 years old, 28 inches long. They're fairly decent size, and so fishermen out here will kind of bring them home. They actually are considered a game fish, and so you wouldn't be able to find calico bass on a supermarket menu or anything like that. They definitely be ones that you have to come out and fish for them yourself and then bring them home.
So the carnivores will live longer than the herbivores.
Typically, yes.
Alrighty, going along the east wall of Lover's Cove here, this is where you see all the rocks off the right-hand side there. It also gets pretty deep pretty quickly right here, so one side of the boat's right up against the rocks. It just gets deeper towards the other side to where you almost can't see the bottom anymore. That being said, that's a common characteristic of how the underwater environment is all around the island. It just gets very deep very quickly. You don't have to go too far offshore to get into deep water. Out where the cruise ship is there, maybe a quarter mile offshore, is only about 300 feet deep. So that's a lot of chain that they have to put out to anchor that ship out there. So it is definitely a deep water environment around all of the island here. Now, in fact, we're only about 20 nautical miles away from the mainland coast of Los Angeles. That being said, even though we're so close to the mainland USA, we're off the coast of the continental shelf. That's that shelf where you basically gets deeper and deeper slowly, and boom, and then it drops off into the deep ocean depths. Since we're on the other side of that, Catalina Island is basically a mountain that comes up out of the ocean, and the tip of that is where we live up on shore here. If you were to drain the Pacific Ocean and kind of see, it'd be a real deep valley between here and the mainland, almost 3,500 feet deep at the deepest part there. Now what that means for us is because it gets so deep so quickly, we can stay about 50 to 100 feet away from the shoreline, which somewhere on the mainland, 50 to 100 feet away from the shore would only be about 5 or 10 feet deep. Out here, 50 to 100 feet of the shore gives us about 30 feet of clearance down below the bottom of our boat. That's just enough for us to kind of explore the marine environment out here in the marine preserve and see what we can find. Most of what we find are these little fish everywhere, so they are definitely the ones that hang out in areas close to shore. They're very safe here because of the fact that no large predators like to come this close to shore. Lots of different boats and other things going on. It's a very loud environment. Alrighty, here we go, dipping our nose in a little bit closer towards the shore to see if we can attract some more of those fish to come up around us. Yeah, back towards some of the diets of these fish out here. Like I said, you got carnivores, ones that'll eat other living things out in the ocean, little invertebrates and other smaller species of fish. You also have herbivores, ones that just feed off of algae, ones that might feed off of tiny little microorganisms and just filter feed, and then also ones that'll basically eat anything, scavengers. And that's kind of like the opali, the ones with the white dot on each side of their back of their head there. Now those opali, being scavengers, that means that they really do eat anything. And it's been recorded that they've been found with things like even trash in their stomachs and things like that. And they're really not the best tasting fish for the most part. Their diet just leads them to only live about 7 to 10 years. And for the most part, experienced fishermen, when they catch them, they're more of a nuisance. They throw them right back into the water. Now right here in the cove, these are some of the larger fish that we see. However, further off the coast and actually around areas of the island where there's a little bit less activity, you can find different types of fish. In fact, there's almost about 200 different species of living creatures around the island inside the marine environment here close to shore. This is only about a quarter mile of coastline that we cover on our voyage. However, throughout the entire coastline, you have about 56 miles around the entire island. It's a lot of territory for these fish to explore. And you can also tell that most of the fish from that first feeding area didn't really follow us around. This is kind of like a new little group, a new little neighborhood that we have right around here. That being said, all of the fish in Lover's Cove are sedentary by nature. They spend their lives in one little specific area. They really don't move around from place to place or go from place to place very often. Now the reason for that is just by their nature, if there's more than enough food, more than enough shelter, and there's basically a stable environment for them, they're not getting scared by predators all the time, they'll stay in one little area for their entire lives. In fact, if we were to tag some of these fish, we'd probably see them here year after year, just kind of staying in this natural environment. Now some of them, like the calico bass, can live up to about 35 years, and even get to around 28 inches long. The opali, despite their diet, can get to around 20 inches long, and like I said, they don't live too long, maybe about 7 to 10 years. The half moons out there are ones that are also carnivores, but they don't really have the sharp teeth like the calico bass do. They have little nubby teeth, kind of like human molars. They're good at crunching things up. They can crunch up the shell of an animal and eat the meat from the inside. And that being said, they'll live about maybe 20 years or so, get to around 17 inches long. The Garibaldi are mostly herbivores. They can live up to about 15 inches long, get to around, 12 inches long, live about 15 years or so. Sheephead, yes, we do. The thing is, the sheephead, though, typically like very large kelp forests. So those ones where you see the large kelp stalks that grow from the bottom all the way to the top, they have the large air bladders and the leaves growing from it. They really like those environments because that's where you'll find lots of little bottom-dwelling creatures that like to feed off the kelp. Things like spiny sea urchins and abalone and even sea cucumbers that live in those kelp forests. So they like to kind of flip those animals over, eat them from the inside, especially spiny sea urchins. They're very specialized and they've adapted in their ability to be able to do that so they can get them from the exposed side, the underside. These guys are expecting another little dose of food, so I'm going to head upstairs and take care of our guys out here near the end of Lover's Cove. We're making our way back in closer to shore and kind of staying close to the shoreline to give everyone on the left-hand side here a view as we make our way towards the beginning of the cove again.
Look at these guys.
Smart, they're waiting.
They're like, guys, you're gonna come over to this side.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey guys, I
Yeah, down on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's good.
Take some snaps.
Yeah, look.
One had a red nose.
What does that mean, Turner? Does that mean he's friends with you?
Drinking with somebody.
Relax for a little bit.
Let's go to the front. Oh, you want to sit in the front or the back?
Right here.